There is no safe place on this planet for us as Catholics, as persecuted Christians, to be safe 100% of the time. But I think that this was a very much needed wake-up call to all Catholics, that we have to have a plan in place, that we cannot just naively think that because we are in the presence of the Lord, we are in participating in Mass, the holy sacrifice of the Mass, that we are somehow shielded from evil. Evil lurks in our church, unfortunately, around it, and we saw that in Minnesota. So I just wanted to speak to that in this video in hopes that it will help you and your family. It is heartbreaking what happened. Preparation really does matter, and you don't have to be married to a police officer or a retired police officer to support your husband as a Catholic wife. Every husband, whether you're a police officer or not, is called to be the protector of his family. And we can either help them as Catholic wives, or we can be yet another problem for them to have to deal with. And if a horrendous situation happens again, and unfortunately, the chances that it will happen again are probably very, very high, you don't want to be another problem for your husband to have to deal with in such a terrible situation. As wives, we can support our husbands to help them by trusting in their instincts. And men, I encourage you to really check out my husband's channel, where he gives you real tools, a cop's perspective on how to keep your family safe. Especially if you aren't of that background, you might be a little unsure on how to do that. Rely on men like my husband who have walked the walk. He has so much training in this specific situation on keeping schools and parishes and how to harden targets, and he knows all of that. And I so encourage you to check his video out, and hopefully it will be a blessing to your family. But don't think that because you're not a police officer, you don't have the ability to protect your families, because you absolutely do. One of the first ways that I can help my husband is where we are seated at Mass, by not challenging him. When we go into Mass, my husband is going to decide where is the best place for our family based on the people that are in the parish at the time, the exits, and all the different factors that go into his brain as to where is the best place for our family. I don't have that skill set. I can't help in that situation. So for me to say, I want to sit here, there, or whatever, would not be helpful at that time. Second way that I help my husband is I follow behind him when he's bringing us up to receive the Most Holy Eucharist. We happen to sit closer to the front of our parish, so there aren't a lot of people that are before us. He always has me behind him, or our children. He goes up first to receive the Most Holy Eucharist, and we tuck in behind him. He likes to lead from the front, and that's the way that he keeps us safe. The third way is respecting his emergency plan. Now, every single parish we have ever attended, we have had the conversation of, if X happens, this is what I am going to do, and he will tell me, this is what I expect you to do. Now, earlier in our marriage, we didn't have that conversation. So when a situation came up, and not to, obviously to the degree of what happened in Minnesota, but we were kind of coming in from behind and coming up with the plan after the fact. Now that has changed. So my husband will tell me if there is a situation that happens, and he's going to share more of the details of that in his video. I'm not going to get into it into my video, but please go check that one out if you're looking for the specifics. But he will tell me what it is that he needs me to do in that situation. If what happened in Minnesota, for example, happened in our parish, what he wants me to do. And that gives him the ability to make sure that I'm in a protected position where he doesn't have to worry that I'm right next to him, which is the wrong place for me to be. That's my instinct, to want to be right there with him and try to help him. But in reality, all it is a hindrance to him, because now he has to worry about the bad guy trying to hurt me. I'm too close to him. His mind isn't focused on the bad guy if I'm right next to him and he's trying to keep me safe, deal with the bad guy and whatever else is happening around him. So he wants to get me away from the situation where I can call the police, let them know what's going on, describe to them what my husband is wearing, explain that he is armed, and all the different things, so they have the information when they get to the scene, that they know that my husband isn't one of the bad guys, and they know that he is a good guy trying to help. So I know what my role is, and I think that that is an important conversation to have if you take away nothing else from this, is to come up with a plan with your husband. He tells you, this is what I intend to do. And maybe your husband isn't going to be like mine and going to engage the bad guy and try to stop whatever the problem is in the parish or wherever we are. Maybe your husband is just, I'm going to take my wife and children and I am going to go with them and get out of the situation. And I would say if you're not trained, if you don't have the background to support this, maybe the best place for you is to be with your wife out of the building, out of the as far away as you can get, rather than trying to add another person to the situation. That's just my 2 cents. Again, watch my husband's video. He'll give you more details on what you should and shouldn't be doing. And that one was kind of a 2-parter. So following his plan and knowing what my role is are ways that I help my husband keep our family safe at Mass. Now, this may or may not be controversial. I don't know. And quite honestly, I don't care. My husband always is carrying. So he always is armed wherever we go. And he's had pushback on that. Never from a priest, though. So from some parishioners at our old parish, we're like, we're in Mass, we're in adoration, wherever we are, God will protect you. God protects us by giving us tools to be able to protect ourselves. We can pray and we can rely on the Lord, absolutely, and we should. But also need to rely on tools. And my husband and his training and his firearm are ways that keep us safe. And he says it all, the only way that you stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And my husband is always the good guy and he is always armed. So whether we're at Mass, we're at the grocery store, we're walking down the street, whatever the case may be, he is always armed. And I love that about him. Another way that I help my husband is by backing his vigilance. Now, I didn't always understand it. I didn't always understand why he needed to sit with facing the door, not having his back to the door. I didn't always understand why he would look into a store first before just going right in. He wanted to see, who was in there, where's the clerk, all these different things that I've learned over the years, the why he does what he does. And again, if your husband isn't in law enforcement and you don't have that personal interaction with this officer, you might not have that information to even have these thoughts about, but my husband has shared these things with me over the years. So understanding that he is very vigilant about keeping his family safe, and he will do anything to do that. And so while I don't have the training or the mindset to understand other than what he's shared with me, I don't have firsthand information on that. I have to get out of my own way and let him do what he does. The Lord gave him this role to protect and provide for our family. He did not give that to me. The role I have as his wife is to support him. And I do that by trusting in his decision-making, in his assessment of all these different places and where he puts me and our children, and relying on him to keep us safe and not be someone who is going to be another problem for him to have to deal with. The other way that I support my husband in keeping us safe in Mass is trusting his instincts and not second guessing him. This is something that is hard for me because I have all the ideas like so many women do. And while I can bring all of them, and I do, to my husband, all my ideas, and some of them I've had since noon, and I think we should run wild with that one. And my husband, he listens to all the things and then he makes a decision, and it's amazing to me. I don't know how the man does it. I think it's a gift that the Lord gives to men, that he can decide and he's done. It's like he decides something, he sets it down, he walks away and he's done. Me, I kind of decide and then I rethink it. I just go over and over. Thanks be to God for husbands, good husbands like mine. So if he has the thought, instinct, whatever it is, that a situation is not good for us, that we need to get up and leave, we need to not be in a situation, I trust that. When we were first married, very young, we were in a parking lot. I believe he's shared this story either on his channel or mine, where we ran into a homeless man in a parking lot. And he was approaching my husband, and it was just us at the time. He was approaching us pretty quickly. And I wanted to stand shoulder to shoulder with my husband. Now I have this much training in how to deal with people like this, aggressive people. I've never been in a fight, anything like that. So what I was going to do in my mind is beyond me at this older age that I am now, thinking back. I guess it was just the arrogance of youth, thinking that I was going to be able to help my husband, where all I was going to do was be another problem for him to have to solve. And his attention was going to be split between this bad guy and whoever else maybe the bad guy was with, and his new wife, who was really too much at the time. So I apologize, babe, for that. So in that situation, we did have a conversation. We had a come to Jesus conversation after that one, where he explained to me how in the future we were going to go be handling that situation. So I learned, and we had that conversation, and I'm grateful for the homeless man who kind of got me back in line. So that was a good thing, and I'm glad for that. So now, if such a situation happened, and we did have one that happened after that, where my husband's going to share about it in his video. So check that one out if you're interested in hearing the story where it went well. My husband's been retired from law enforcement for about, I think, 8 years now. But he is still so much a cop's cop. Like the way he sees the world, the way that he interacts with people, the way that he deals with me, all the things. That is so ingrained in who he is. He's never going to not have that mindset. So he can be retired 50 years from now. He's still going to be the same guy. And I am thankful for it. I am thankful that I am married to a man like this who has such a servant's heart. And that's all he wants to do, is to protect and provide and help people, weaker people, people that are not able to protect themselves. And that is what this man was built for. And thanks be to God, the Lord gave this man to me, and I'm so thankful for him. So I am grateful for his time as a police officer when we were in it. It was very difficult, very lonely, very hard to offer up your heart every single day. And I would send him out into the world and never knowing if he was coming back to me. And we had young children, and it is very difficult. And I ask that you pray for the law enforcement, the ones that are still out there fighting the good fight. The ones who have made it out, like my husband, be grateful for the sacrifices that they and their families have made. It is a selfless job, and I am grateful that my husband is out. My almost son-in-law is going to be going into that field, and it's such a different feeling as a mother now having a daughter who is going to be married to a police officer is a different thing for me to have to wrap my mind around, where I feel so helpless in that situation. But thanks be to God for these men, these selfless men and women who go out there and do the things that we cannot do. The last way that I've helped my husband is to pray for him and his role as a protector of our family, that the Lord will continue to give him courage and strength and kindness and all the different things that are needed to make a good Catholic husband, cop or not, retired or not, and that he will continue to fortify this man in his role as my husband to protect me and our family, and God willing, to help other people to use the skills, the lessons, all that he has accumulated over his lifetime to help other Catholic men serve and protect their own families. Looking back, I can see how often I resisted my husband's headship, and I thought that was making me strong, that would make me strong in his eyes. And really, it was just weakness, and it was harming our family. And I am grateful now, looking back, that the Lord allowed those years to happen where I was headstrong, and my husband would let me go out so far and he'd reel me back in. And the patience that this man has had with me and still has with me to this day to work out these things in our marriage, supporting him, trusting in him, allowing him to live in his role as a Catholic husband, protector and provider, and not be this millstone around his neck by being either nagging or being combative or being any of the things that a Catholic wife does not want to be. I'm thankful for this man and his patience to help me grow into this role of a better Catholic wife. Our support is everything to our husbands. Letting your husband know that you love him and honor him and respect him and trust in his ability to keep you and your family safe is such a gift that only you can give to him. Supporting our husbands allows them to live out their God-given role as the protectors and providers of our families. Applies whether your husband is a seasoned veteran like mine, or your husband is just a Catholic husband with no law enforcement training, wanting to protect his family, and open to resources that are out there to help him strengthen the skills that he has so he can protect if the bad guy comes, when the bad guy comes, his family. Supporting your husband may truly save your life one day. That you talk to your husband about this topic. I ask you to check out my husband's video, share it with your husbands or any Catholic men that you know. Ask them, how can I help you protect our family? What do you need of me as your wife to protect our family? And then set it down and trust your husband to protect you and lead you to Christ. And you might be surprised how safe and peaceful you feel. Until next time, take care and God bless.